ago. Our first guest tonight is Super Bowl champion and member of the BYU Athletic Hall of Fame, set the standard at tight end for a program that's had a number of outstanding tight ends. Our pleasure to welcome the former walk-on and eventual consensus All-American and Hall of Famer and Super Bowl champion, Dennis Pitta, back to the Wise Guys. And there he is, live from his vehicle in California. Dennis, it's so great to have you with us. How you doing?
I'm good. You guys hear me all right?
Yeah, we can hear you great. Like, what vehicle is that? People want to know what you're driving these days so they can go out and get one.
I actually have a Ford F-150 Lightning. It's the new electric one.
Oh.
I live in California now, so gas prices are a little bit higher than where you guys are at.
Yeah, just a little bit.
We got to offset our costs somehow and stay electric. But I apologize for being late, guys. I literally just walked off the practice field here in San Clemente. I was with our good friend John Beck and Byron Rex and the crew. We're all coaches over here for San Clemente High School. So we have a game coming up on Thursday, actually, this week. And I apologize. I was all wrapped up into practice and didn't realize what time it was.
That's all right. We'll work around that.
People, and that's the most important thing. People have been so excited, like on the chat, like you can't see it because you're down there, but people are like, "Where's Dennis? Get Dennis!" And some of the women that follow their show are like, "Dennis is a beautiful man. Where's the handsome Dennis?" Like I was like, "Wow."
Well, the handsome
Dennis has
Dennis
a following
is right here. How excited are you for the football season?
I am very excited. Are we talking BYU football? Or are we talking San Clemente High School football?
Both.
Because I'm excited for both.
Yeah, let's start with San Clemente and then since it's going on now, and then the Cougs here in a week and a half.
Yeah, we had our first game last Friday night for San Clemente, first game of the season, and we got a big win, 20-10, against a very good, highly ranked Chaparral team out of Temecula, California. So. Great start for the Tritons down here in San Clemente, and we're 1-0.
Is this staff? So you mentioned there's John Beck, there's Byron Rex.
That's like an NFL staff.
Is that to rival the Ty Detmer, Max Hall staff over in Arizona?
Yeah, I was part of the Ty Detmer, Max Hall staff. I was the wide receiver / special teams coach there. And, that staff only could take me so far. And so I realized, I got to jump ship. I got to find something that'll challenge me a little bit more. And so I came over to California and joined John Beck and Byron. And we have Matt Redden, if you guys remember him.
I know Matt really well. Don't tell me Jonathan Ord's out there with you guys, too.
Jonathan, I replaced Jonathan Ord out here.
Oh,
Jonathan Ord got called as a mission president in, I believe, Texas.
No kidding.
And so he just left, I think, in June, and I stepped in. So we have a pretty strong BYU contingency down here in San Clemente.
Yeah, that's
much like we had in Arizona.
Oh, yeah.
That's, Jonathan and Matt, they kind of they run San Clemente, obviously. And so my question is that now that Jonathan's not on mission, I'm hoping like you and Matt are going to be able to take care of me at San Clemente Country Club when I come down there now. It's very hilly, but a good course right by their house there.
I am not a member there, so that's going to have to be Matt. I live up just like 10 minutes north of there. I live in Ladera Ranch.
Oh, okay.
And so I am not technically a San Clemente guy, but I coach
But you're
down
coaching
here.
with those guys. What positions are you? You were coaching receivers and special teams with Ty. What are you coaching with the staff here in San Clemente?
Yeah, so I'm still doing wide receivers. Byron's technically the tight end coach, but I interject probably too often when he's trying to coach, and kind of overtake his coaching points and bring my own to the game. So, Byron, I'm always stepping on Byron's toes, which I think he's bothered by. But I keep telling our tight ends, listen, the game has passed Byron by. He's old. All right, this is new school football. You guys need to listen to me and ignore what he says.
Dennis, when Byron's in one of his things and he's talking a lot, do you just pull out your Super Bowl ring and put it on and walk around the guys?
I haven't, I haven't pulled that move yet.
But it's there
it
for
hasn't
you.
come to that. He still is letting me talk a little bit, but if it comes to that, I will have no shame.
Who's older, Byron or? Yeah, I think Byron's older. Byron or Tom Brady. I'm like, who's older, Byron or Tom Brady?
I think Byron's a little bit older.
I think he is too.
Byron, I think Byron's in his 50s. Byron's mid 50s, I think. I don't know.
See, because
listen, he looks great for 50.
Yeah, he is in shape.
Yeah, let's shift to the Cougs. A week from Saturday is the opener. Do you get anxious this time of year? Because this was the time of year you were either playing at BYU or you're playing for the Ravens. Now you're coaching, but as an athlete, does the bug come back in late August?
It definitely does. As soon as teams start reporting back for training camp in the NFL, I start to kind of get butterflies in my stomach because I just remember for so long that time of year and being nervous and getting back and into training camp and getting ready for the season. So I know what those guys are going through. Training camp is not easy in the NFL, I can tell you that. And having to go through those preseason games, and there's just so much pressure at that level. And I'm nervous for the guys that are playing now, even if I don't know them. I just have like butterflies in my stomach for those guys because the grind that they're going through day in and day out, both physically and mentally. And so, I'm a little farther removed from the fall camp days at BYU, and those felt a little bit more fun to me than the NFL ones did. BYU is, for whatever reason, it was a little bit more, I felt a little bit more comfortable and relaxed and not quite as much pressure there. You didn't feel like you were always losing your job at BYU like you do in the NFL, but it's an exciting time of year, and I love when football rolls back around, because I get to coach, but also, watching it every Saturday and Sunday is a blast.
Take us inside. You said it's been a little bit longer, but now BYU is less than 2 weeks away. They officially closed fall camp today, so now it's prep for Sam Houston. What does that change mean for the mindset of the players, and what's kind of going through their heads as they're now less than 2 weeks away from game one?
Yeah, I mean, you make that mental shift from training camp grind, going against your own team, to now you're preparing for an opponent. And I always loved that shift from whether it was in the NFL or at BYU, from going against your own guys. I mean, physically, the grind of just fall camp is really difficult. And to be able to now shift your attention to an actual opponent, to be able to start game planning towards an opponent, you get to work against the scout team a little bit more, so you get more of a physical break from the grind to training camp. And it's always an exciting time because all right, we're just a week or two away here from the start of the season and getting underway. So I love this time of year, and we're about ready to get rolling here.
Handful of BYU receivers, including tight end Isaac Rex, spent some time with you in California doing off-season training. He talked with Rex after the scrimmage Saturday. He's back. He's healthy. He's ready to go. What are your expectations for him in this offense after working with him during the summer?
Yeah, I mean, we had a really great opportunity, both Austin Collie and myself, to train a lot of the BYU wide receivers and tight ends, which I think was awesome. We're down here in Southern California, and Keaton Slovis was down here training with John Beck. So we kind of used that opportunity to get a bunch of the tight ends and receivers down here, get some extra work while the quarterbacks were doing their work. We were getting all kinds of different drills with the tight ends and receivers, and then we would come together and throw routes so those guys could get on the same page, and we'd film them and we'd watch the film, we'd critique them. So we were able to spend about 3 weeks or so with a lot of those guys. And for me, it was a blast. I mean, I didn't know a lot of those guys, a lot of the receivers. Obviously, I have known Isaac for a little bit now. But another tight end that was down with us was Anthony Olson, who we really enjoyed getting to know. And then a bunch of the wide receivers. Parker Kingston was one of them. A lot of those guys were down here working with us. And it was awesome just to get to know those guys, to see their game, to be able to help them in any way that we could. Refine their route running at the top of routes, getting off the jam, working releases, all that kind of stuff. Hopefully they enjoyed it, but it was great to be able to give back to those guys and work with them. And listen, it gives me more of a vested interest now, and I'm going to really be paying attention and watching those guys and really excited for them and rooting for the success this season.
They gave rave reviews. Like, they were really excited about having the opportunity. When we've talked to some of those kids that were down there, they treasure that opportunity. It was really fun for them. You mentioned you worked a little bit with Keaton because he was down there with John, working with John. What's your impression of Keaton? I mean, I think he's made huge progress since spring till now in his mastery of this offense and all that. But you saw his raw physical skills down there. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing that jumps out to you is his leadership ability. He's a confident kid, and he's a natural leader. I mean, he was rallying the receivers. right away, everybody kind of looks to him as their leader. And for a guy that just transferred in and really had only been there a couple months, that was impressive to see. And that's what you need and want out of the quarterback position, a guy that's going to be confident in the huddle, a guy that everybody's going to look to for confidence, and somebody who's going to be that kind of natural leader for the group. And so that jumped out to me right away. And then you see his physical ability. I mean, he's been working with John Beck for a long time, but the way he spins the ball, his footwork and all that is excellent. And it was really fun to see those guys firsthand. And really, that makes you miss football more than anything, watching those guys get out here and run routes together. I wish I could still – I mean, there was a number of times where I wish I could have laced them up and jumped out there and ran a corner route or something and caught the ball, but I would have been pretty slow at it and probably would have been overthrown. But, that's just so much fun. I love that kind of work in the offseason. Max and myself and Austin, I mean, we thrived in that. We just love to get together and throw routes on air and do whatever we could to get on the same page, and being able to work with those guys and do that stuff when they didn't have to be doing anything at all. I mean, they had 3 weeks off. I think it was after spring ball and before they kind of started their summer workouts and stuff. Those guys were out there getting in extra work, grinding, working together, making sure they were on the same page. And I think that's going to really transition to success in the fall.
Dennis Pitta's on the Wise Guys tonight. He suited up between 2004 and 2009 at BYU with a 2-year mission in between. His 211 receptions for 2,883 yards remains a school record among tight ends, and he loves it when we say that. His 21 touchdowns are tied for second all-time among tight ends with Isaac Rex, and just one behind the legendary Gordon Hudson. Rex, we asked him on Saturday if you were okay with him blowing past you on the touchdown board, and it could happen in the first game, and he said that he suggested that you come to Provo, and when he does that he hands you a football or some kind of ceremonial thing. And that was his idea, and I asked him if he went for it, and he said absolutely not. So,
I mean, that would be awesome. Listen, he's going to break that record. He's going to beat me. He's going to beat Gordon Hudson. I mean, he's already tied with me. Is that what you said?
Yeah. You and he are tied at 2, and Gordon's only 1 ahead.
Man, I didn't know we were already tied. So, I mean, he just needs 1 to beat me.
Just one.
He's gonna beat that against Sam Houston State. I might have to come out there for that game. I don't know that I could commit to get out there each and every week to be there when he scores a touchdown if he doesn't happen in the first game. But I know Isaac well. I'm sure as soon as he breaks that record, I'll give him a call, and we'll have a nice chat about it.
Yeah,
but
he may call you first.
Yeah, I mean, listen, he's a great kid. It was so much fun, to work with him this offseason and just to get to know him better over the last 2 years or so has been so fun for me, to be completely honest. He's a stud. I mean, listen, he's probably going to catch a ton of touchdowns this year. He's going to shatter that record and have it by, probably 5 or 6 touchdowns, if not more. And so I'm proud of him and everything he's accomplished at BYU. I mean, the guy's a touchdown machine, and he can catch everything that comes his way. He's got a huge catch radius, and that is a massive weapon in the red zone. And a big reason why I think he started his career with 12 touctouchdowns his freshman year.
Yeah, that first year.
And has continued to build upon that. I mean, there's a reason he's got so many touchdowns, and it's a compliment to him and what he's able to do in the red zone for those guys.
It's been fun to watch him, Dennis. We watched last year, and we just all struggled with him because when he was healthy with a perfect ankle, he could get separation down in the red zone, and he struggled last year with that bad ankle. He's probably playing at 70%. Nobody ever admitted that, but he played at 70%. As I've watched him through fall camp, he's getting separation again. I just keep thinking, whoa, he's going to catch a bunch of balls this year. That's going to be really fun. We know he's a given. Like you mentioned his catch radius. Well, looking at these other tight ends, you got Ethan Erickson, Anthony Olsen, who I know you worked with, freshman Jackson Bowers, Mason Fakahu moved from running back to tight end. Are there any of these guys that you're particularly excited about and with the rest of these tight ends working behind Isaac Rex?
Yeah, I mean, from all accounts, it's a really good group. And I know there's a couple transfers in there that you mentioned who have had great fall camps. I haven't had a chance to work with those guys or see those guys. The only other guy that I'm really familiar with is Anthony Olsen. And Anthony's an intriguing guy because Anthony's only really played like 2 years of football. He played basketball growing up. He played basketball through much of high school, switched to tight end and played football his senior year of high school, and then got a scholarship to BYU as a tight end. And so his story is pretty remarkable, but he's a really great athlete. I've played basketball against him. Down here we played basketball with the whole crew. And, he's a tough cover in basketball. He's got a lot of lateral quickness and a lot of body control. And so it's just a matter of time before he's able to kind of put it together on the football field, because with that kind of athleticism and his ability to change direction, he's a really big kid. If he can just kind of refine his route running a little bit and utilize that basketball skill in the tight end position, he's going to be a force to be reckoned with as he matures and progresses in this offense and with that team. And so he's definitely a guy that I'll pay attention to his career, and don't be surprised if you hear his name in a couple of years as the next great tight end for BYU.
When Dennis Pitta speaks, people listen, because he caught 224 passes for 2,098 yards and 13 touchdowns during his 7 seasons with the Ravens, including a touchdown catch in the Super Bowl to beat San Francisco, and he had a couple of injuries in between that. Fantastic NFL career. But now let's talk about the Big 12, where your Cougars are a member of, and next year Utah's back in the Big 12. Are you okay with that?
Yeah, I love it, to be honest. And, I know there's been some mixed feelings amongst Cougar Nation with Utah coming to the Big 12. I'm not sure why people would be opposed to that at all. I think it's great for the rivalry. I think it's great for the league. Utah's a great program. I mean, we can't deny that. And, the fact that they've, been to so many Pac-12 championships over the last couple of years, that only helps the Big 12, that helps BYU. I think it helps everybody. And to not want to see that rivalry continue is just kind of blows me away. I love it. And I think BYU fans should be excited, because now we'll get to see that rivalry every year, hopefully, depending on how they kind of set things up. But you would imagine that those, BYU and Utah will play again every year, and with a lot more at stake now than we had during the independence years. And so it's back to kind of the old Mountain West Conference, or the old WAC days when BYU and Utah were meeting, and there was conference and all kinds of implications on the line. And as a BYU fan, I'm excited.
Yeah, Tom Holmoe was on with us last week for a couple hours, and we asked him that. He said, yeah, we'll likely play them every year. It may not be, we were like, hey, Thanksgiving weekend every year? Wouldn't that be great? And he goes, well, I don't know that it'll work out like that, but we'll certainly play them every year. And does that make a big, you just mentioned, hey, now conference implications, postseason implications, all of that. Does that make a huge difference in the tone of that game when all of that is on the line and you're not just playing as an independent?
Yeah, listen, that game is always more intense. There's always a lot on the line, whether you have those kind of conference and postseason implications or not. That game just means so much to the fan bases alone, that you feel that kind of pressure and that urgency and that excitement throughout the week leading up to Utah, and certainly in the game. But, when you have a conference championship, or you have, certain things on the line that add to the intensity of that game, it certainly heightens things. But listen, you never need more motivation to go and play well against Utah. And I don't think they need motivation to play well against us. It's still a great rivalry, and one that I'm happy is going to continue for a long time now.
Hey, next year, if they meet in Thanksgiving time with championship implications, that'll be the first time that's happened since your last year in 2009. So it's been a long time coming to have an opportunity in that game, perhaps if they go divisions, to win that game and go to the Big 12 championship game.
Could be that.
Which is rare air for both. One of our live streamers has a question for you, Dennis. Who's your favorite NFL tight end currently in the league?
Currently? I'm actually a huge Travis Kelce fan, and I know that's probably a kind of a boring answer.
No, it's awesome.
Arguably the best tight end in the NFL,
yeah.
But his style of play really resonates with me. And, he's a lot like me in regards to, he's a receiver first and a blocker second.
Yeah.
But the way he's able to kind of work defenders and find open voids and the things he does, the craftiness he has in his routes and setting guys up. When you really watch and study him, which I got to do a lot, especially this past year, I was able to train a couple tight ends who were getting ready for the combine. One of which was Dalton Kincaid from Utah, who went in the first round. And so I watched a lot of film with those guys. And we watched a lot of Travis Kelce in particular to learn from kind of what he does and how he gets open and how he runs his routes. And I gained a lot more respect for him because of the subtle little things that your standard football watcher may not pick up on. But setting up defenders and the little things he does at the top of routes just create a little bit more separation. I really appreciate his game. And there's not a lot of tight ends in the history of the league, much less guys that are playing right now that are that crafty, that are that good,
right?
And that do the things that he does. And so, yes, it helps to have Patrick Mahomes as a quarterback. I'll give him that. And to have Andy Reid as a play caller. But I'm really impressed with his game. And he's, in my opinion, head and shoulders above kind of the rest of the league right now.
We go through the list of players that are currently in the NFL for BYU, and it seems like a record-long list. I mean, there's a lot of guys still in camps. And I realize the situation is different than the old days when they used to have multiple cuts. They just kind of wait to the end and everybody gets cut. But is there a Cougar that's currently in the NFL that you feel has the best situation to have a big season this coming season?
Well, I think there's the obvious answers. Obviously Fred Warner's the best at his position, but a guy that I think, I just spoke about Travis Kelce, and a guy that I think is in a unique position is Matt Bushman. He's able to sit behind Travis Kelce. He's able to learn from him. He's been there now probably about a year and a half or so. Mm-hmm. I know he was injured last season, but to be able to be in the same position room as Travis Kelce, to be able to watch how he runs routes, to be able to be in that offense with Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, all that. I know he's had a good camp. I know he's had a good preseason. He had a great preseason last year before he got injured and get put on IR. And so Matt Bushman, I think, is in a really good spot. I think, listen, he's still a bubble player and he's got to earn his way and he's going to have to play special teams and do all that. But I think he's in a really unique spot to really grow as a player and to really be able to make his mark in this league at some point. And so Matt Bushman's a great kid. I'm certainly rooting hard for him, and I hope he gets an opportunity to see the field a little bit this year, but at least be on that roster and be able to continue to learn from a guy like Travis Kelce, because that's invaluable in my opinion. And whether he stays with Kansas City or he moves on to another situation, I think the growth that he's going to be able to make during his time here in Kansas City is going to be pivotal for him.
Couple more questions with the great Dennis Pitta, and then we'll finish with your 5 favorite touchdown catches of your career. This month is the 15th anniversary of your best receiving game at BYU. August 30th, 2008. You caught 11 passes for 213 yards, but no touchdowns. So we're perplexed. How does a guy get 213 yards in a game without getting across the goal line? What do you remember from that?
You get a lot of catches on your side of the field. That's what happened. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think that was against Northern Iowa in our first game. Listen, it was a great start to the season for me. The opponent wasn't, the best, but I remember catching a bunch of seam balls, catching a bunch of deep outs, that kind of stuff. Big chunk plays where you could get a lot of yards. For some reason, I did not get in the end zone. I'm not sure I was even close to the end zone in that game, but I had a ton of catches and a ton of yards, and I remember that being a fun one. And that was week 1, so I think I was the leading receiver in the whole country. Yeah. After week 1 in the NCAA, or in Division I at least, and so it was a good way to start. And then I think the very next week we went to Washington, and I had another 100-yard game or something like that. So I got off to a hot start in that season. But that game in particular, it was just one of those games where felt like I was always open. Max was doing a great job of finding me. And the best part about that game is I think Austin Collie was pretty upset about it because I was the leading receiver. Nice. And he was not. And so, because through I think the first few weeks I was blowing him away with yards and catches, and then something flipped mid-season, and that's where he went on like 9 straight games of 100+ yards and ended up like one of the leading receivers in the country. So I think he was upset about how that season started, but That was the best part of that start for me.
Don't you love the internal competitions?
Oh, yeah.
I remember that Washington game because in that game, it seemed like every time BYU had a third down, Max would just throw it to Dennis.
Yeah.
And I remember we talked about Dennis and I go, Dennis is a chain mover. Third down, everybody in the building's going, well, they're going to throw it to Dennis, but they still couldn't stop it, which I loved. And tight ends can be chain movers. We asked this question of former BYU tight ends coach, or of BYU tight ends coach Steve Clark. We said, if the game's on the line and you need a reception, which tight end are you going with? And we gave him a choice, a list. We said, you're going to go with Gordon Hudson, Chad Lewis, Dennis Pitta, Johnny Harling, Matt Bushman, or Isaac Rex. I mean, we could, but there's so many good tight ends, but that's the list we gave him to pick from.
And he hemmed and hawed for a
He's
little
like,
while.
I don't know if I should do this. I'm like, just give us one. He goes, okay. He says, I'm going 12 personnel. So see, he hedged. I'm going 12 personnel, and I'm putting Bushman and Pitta on the field. That's what he said. So we're going to ask you the same question, only you can't choose yourself. That's an obvious choice, right? With Coach Clark choosing it. So you got to pick one tight end other than yourself in BYU history. You know what? We're not even going to make you stick to that list. You got to complete a ball for the game winner. Who you sending out there?
Okay, that's a good question. First off, I appreciate Coach Clark putting me as one of the two tight ends. He didn't say who he was throwing to, did he?
No, he just I'm going 12 personnel. I'm gonna have Dennis and Bushman out there.
I want to know who the top read in that play is. I want to know who the number one read coming off the ball is.
If it's Max, he's throwing it to you. We all know that. If Max is the quarterback.
True. So I'll also go 12 personnel. I'm going to put myself on one. I know you said I couldn't put myself, but here's why. I'm going to put myself on one side as a decoy, and I'm going to put Andrew George on the other side. And just like how we ended the game against Utah in overtime, we're going to throw it to Andrew. I'm going to pull coverage away on the one side, and Andrew's going to catch it and scamper into the end zone on a pivotal third down, and we're going to score and win the game.
I love it.
Andrew George.
That's a great
shout
choice.
out for Colorado for Andrew George. Good choice. You know what? It would have been easy to go with the Clay Browns of the world.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many good tight ends. We were talking.
Listen, that's such a good list. It's so hard to pick one. I mean, listen, Harleen can go up and make a grab and fade in the end zone. I mean, listen, I didn't have the luxury to really watch much of Gordon Hudson, but the things that guy did, he was are unrivaled in my opinion. I mean, he was unbelievable. There's so many names on that list.
Yeah.
I don't think you could go wrong.
We were talking last week, Dennis, and we were talking about this Jackson Bowers, who's a really high-rated tight end that came out of Arizona, and Max is pretty familiar with him because he's from down there. And we said to Max, "Tell us about this kid. He's a big-time recruit. Everybody wanted him. Is he like Dennis? Is he like Gordon Hudson? Is he like Chris Smith, who we haven't even talked about?" And he goes,
he's 6'5", 230.
He's like, "No. He's Daniel Coates." I was like, oh, we forget about Daniel Coates. I was like, I will take Daniel Coates all day long, right? And it's just like there's so many good tight ends in BYU history. We forget about guys even like Daniel Coates, who played in the National Football League and was a really good player. What a tradition that BYU has. And
Doug Jolly is another one that
Doug
slips
Jolly
by.
and what's it like to be part of a fraternity of guys at a position that was that good at BYU?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's special to be able to call yourself a BYU tight end. I think it's an awesome fraternity. It has a history like not many schools can claim. And what was cool for me playing tight end at BYU is getting to know the guys who came before me. And Chad Lewis was at the tail end of his career when I was playing at BYU, and he would always be a guy that was down there working out with us, helping us in any way that we can. He wasn't working for BYU at that point. And so to be able to work with a guy like Chad, who you grew up watching as a tight end, is just so neat. And then for me to be able to work with the current tight ends, I think is an awesome pleasure for me, to be completely honest. And they probably don't care about it too much, but for me, it's just cool to get to know those guys and to help them in any way that I can, and help try to continue that tradition and that legacy. Because, like you mentioned, I mean, there's so many guys that have had tremendous careers as tight ends, not only in BYU, but also in the NFL. And another guy that comes to mind as we're talking here is Todd Christensen.
Yeah.
And I played with Toby, his son, and I got to know Todd a little bit. And, guys like that made such a big impact after BYU. And his impact in the NFL is tremendous. And so, what a storied and, huge legacy the tight end position is at BYU. And I'm just, blessed and grateful to have been a part of that.
Dennis, Steve Clark told us that you have one of his trophies in his office and that you won't come get it. And so it's just sitting in there. What is he talking about?
Yeah, what is he talking about?
I have no idea what he's talking about.
He's like, Dennis has a trophy here. He needs to come get it. Yeah, he has one of yours. He says, Dennis won't come get it.
And it's just sitting there.
And we're like, what is he talking about?
I don't know. I mean, it's not a Super Bowl trophy. I don't know what kind of trophy we're talking about here.
It's not a Hall of Fame trophy. You got that. It's not All-American. You don't get trophies for being All-American. What? But we're going to find out because we told him you were coming on the show. We were going to ask him. He was pretty
you
vague.
Guys let me know what trophy he's holding.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. We're going to text you. And
he hasn't told me I need to come pick up anything. So he's, I think, hoarding my trophy is what's really going on.
You know what? The table is turned. We're going to follow up with Coach Clark. All right, you've scored a lot of touchdowns, and we prepped you a little bit on your 5 favorite. Usually we wrap up these interviews with 5 questions, but we've already done that.
You've done that.
Henry Marsh is here, and he's going to get his in just a little bit. But let's go with your 5 favorite touchdowns, NFL or college or high school. What's number 5?
You want to do them in reverse order? 5 back to 1.
Okay, 5 back to 1.
Yeah, with one.
We want to end with the grand finale with the number 1.
Okay, we can do that. Let's say number 5. I would argue is I can't. So there was, if you guys remember the Colorado State game, my senior year. No, it was my junior year because Austin was still playing with us. For whatever reason, we were in a dogfight with Colorado State.
Yeah, it was over there, right? Wasn't it the one over there?
I think so.
Yeah, it was at Colorado State, and that game came down to the absolute wire. And I think we had the ball with under a minute left. And I think with 20 seconds or under 20 seconds, we ran a play. And I caught the game-winning touchdown in that game. And I ran like a little dig, kind of pushed back out, caught the ball, and barreled my way into the end zone. I think I ran right over Mike Reed to get in the end zone. And we won the game with like 10 seconds left.
Was that
So that's probably my number 5.
Did your helmet come flying off in that one?
So no, but that's a great segue to
number 4. Good question.
All right.
So this would be number 4.
Okay.
Is that same game earlier in the second half, which arguably might be my best catch of my collegiate career.
Really? Was
when my helmet popped off because I was just running a seam ball on the left side of the formation, and Max throws a ball kind of high and away, and I had to make a pretty good adjustment all the way back around and high point it kind of back behind my head. And right as I did that, I got sandwiched between 2 defenders, and it popped my helmet straight up. And as you guys know, my helmet tended to come off quite a bit.
Is that so that the TV cameras could get a good shot of you, just like Jason Chaffetz?
It's just because
was it accidental?
Dennis's top of his head is skinny and his cheeks are not skinny, and so the helmet just comes off.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I have a misshapen head. What's funny is I never had that issue in the NFL. I only had that issue at BYU, and I don't know why, but for whatever reason, it came off quite a bit. But whether my helmet came off a lot or not, I think it was going to come off no matter what in that play.
That was
the way that I got hit, kind of the crown of both defenders' helmets caught me underneath the chin, and it just popped my helmet straight up. So that was definitely one of my most memorable catches and probably my most difficult catches that I remember having at BYU. And just so happened that those two Those two catches,
And
number
the
5
same
and
game.
number 4,
Number
were
5
in
and
the
4 in the
game.
same game.
Yeah, and that one got you on
Yeah.
Sports Center too. The
That's
one
right.
with the helmet popping off. I'm pretty
got
sure.
on Sports Center. What's 3 then? These are pretty. Those are pretty spectacular. I can't wait for 3, 2, and 1 here.
Yeah, so 3 is actually, we're going to go way back to my freshman year at BYU. It was my first touchdown catch ever at BYU.
Oh.
And it was at Air Force. And it was like middle of the season. Now, if you guys remember, you mentioned Dan Coates. So Dan Coates was the starting tight end. I was a lowly walk-on tight end at about 210 pounds. Trying to play tight end, a converted wide receiver. And Dan Coates got injured the week before, so I was kind of the starting tight end at Air Force that year. And I caught a tight end throwback screen.
Oh, wow.
And
Yeah.
scampered probably about 10 or 15 yards into the end zone for my first ever collegiate touchdown. And so most fans don't remember that play at all. For me, that one's seared into my memory because it was my first ever touchdown at BYU. And so that was a big one. And that whole season, I didn't play a lot throughout the first probably 6 weeks or so of the season. I was kind of the backup to Dan. And then Dan broke his hand.
Mm-hmm.
And the last handful of weeks of that season, I played quite a bit. I actually had 2 touchdowns in that game against Air Force.
Nice.
I don't remember I think the second one was like a little flat route or something like that. But that was a big one. Your first touchdown's always a big one.
Well, and did I hear that right? This is your first start then. So in your very first start, you had 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, it was my very first start at Air Force, and caught a little tight end throwback screen. And I think I've told you guys this story, but my freshman year, I was a lowly walk-on.
Yeah.
And
dressing
Coach
over
Croton
there
thought
in
my
the
name
field
was,
house. Yeah. Go
Coach
ahead.
Croton thought my name was Dustin most of the year.
Yeah, called you Dustin. I remember that.
I probably ran off the field, and he gave me a high five. Good job, Dustin. Good play. And so Dustin had his first touchdown that game.
There you go.
Dustin's in the Hall of Fame, so it worked out for him.
That's right. Okay, what's 2?
Okay, so we're actually going to skip to the NFL now.
Okay.
So number 2 is my first touchdown ever in the NFL. And it came in my second season. My first season in the NFL, didn't play a whole lot. I had 1 catch for 1 yard. That was my stat line for the whole year.
Oh,
Nice.
I forgot that.
Yeah. So I was a special teams player that first year, and I did not get in on much offense, to be honest. But I did against the Bengals. I ran like a little shallow route across the field, and I caught it and immediately got hit by the corner, got blindsided for 1 yard. So 1 catch for 1 yard was my highlight that year.
All right.
That being said, I was in my second year. It was Thanksgiving night. We played on Thanksgiving against the San Francisco 49ers, who we eventually met in the Super Bowl a couple years later. It was the first Harbaugh Bowl. So the brothers were going against each other.
That's right.
John R. Harbaugh against Jim, the 49ers Harbaugh. And my first ever touchdown, I ran a skinny post from about 10 yards out, crossed the safety's face, and caught it right in front of him for a touchdown. So primetime game on Thanksgiving, first ever NFL touchdown. We went on to win that game by a touchdown, and so that was a big one for me.
Yeah.
I think I got the player of the game ball for our team
Nice.
in that one. So that's a memorable one. That ball is up on my shelf in my office, and one that I will always remember.
And that takes us to the biggest touchdown catch in the history of Dennis Pitta.
Number 1.
I have a feeling I know
feeling
what you
it's
guys.
I think it's an NFL.
Can you
one.
guys guess what I'm going to say?
It has to be.
I have a pretty good idea. So
But you could surprise us. But it has to be.
could be something crazy.
A short pass into the end zone of the Super Bowl.
Yeah, it was only a 1 yard touchdown, but it was in the Super Bowl. And I ran we were on the goal line. I ran a little corner route, and I actually stopped my route early because the safety was overplaying me to the outside. I couldn't get across his face. So I actually pushed him off and sat down inside, which we had never worked on in practice. and Flacco's kind of half rolling out, and he sees me do that, and he fires it right on me, and we get a completion for a touchdown in the Super Bowl. So I would have to think a Super Bowl touchdown catch is definitely memorable.
Seems like it would be.
Yeah.
The farther I get away from that game and look back, I think the cooler that catch and that touchdown becomes.
Yeah.
When you can kind of look back and say, I had a touchdown catch in the Super Bowl. In the moment, it's kind of surreal. You don't really understand the weight of that. And the farther removed I get, I think I appreciate it more and more to be able to have played in that game, to have caught a touchdown in that game, and to won that game is awesome. So that's my list. That's my number one touchdown.
I love that. We talk a lot in this show about encouraging people to whatever they're doing, whether it's sports, whatever it is, sometimes just step back and take a moment to smell the roses and to recognize the cool things are happening all around you.
The great Dennis Pitta. Hey, how much rain did you deal with that tropical storm coming in this last week?
Yeah, it was not quite all it was hyped up to be.
Is that always the case? Isn't that always the case?
Yeah,
we thought we were going to get a bunch of rain from it, and we had some showers today, but nothing major.
Yeah, we had a lot of rain for about a day and a half, and a little bit of wind, but it wasn't. Hillary didn't quite pack as much of a punch as we were expecting, so we survived.
That's good. That's good. Are you going to be up for any games? So we need to have you come on a Game Day Live if you're going to be up.
Yeah, I'm planning on it. I don't know which one we're going to make it up for. I was actually just talking to Byron Rex the other day because Byron goes up to every single game.
Yeah, of course.
Right, and I was trying to figure out which one we're going to come up to. I'll probably get up there for one. I don't think I'll make it up for the first one, but we'll see. We might get
let us know when
Oklahoma game or something.
Yeah.
I was kind of looking at the schedule the other day. A couple of good ones at home that we might have to catch. So
let us know when you come up. We'd love to have you involved with what we're doing.
Will do. Absolutely.
Hey, best of luck to San Clemente. Who you playing this weekend? Who are you playing Friday night?
We play Torrey Pines down in San Diego.
Yeah, are they any good?
They run a little bit of the wing tee, so it'll be it'll be a little slower paced game than what we're used to. But
get some old footage from Lavelle.
I hate teams that run the wing tee. I just hate it.
I know. I dislike it more than anything. It's tough to watch. I just, fortunately, I don't have to really game plan or prep for it because we're on the offensive side of the ball. But we've played it feels like in high school you always run into at least one or two of those teams every year that are still stuck on the wing tee, and I don't know why. For whatever reason, they just want to stick with it. It never works, but we'll see.
Well, Dennis, we look forward to having you on the show again once we get deeper into the season to kind of break down how things are going. And anyway, we love that you hang out with us, and we know you're busy, and we're proud of how you represent the Cougs and all that stuff. And congratulations on a San Clemente gig to straighten out Rex and Beck.
Yep.
A lot of pressure on you.
And we're going to watch. We're going to watch.
I feel the pressure.
We're excited that you've had some influence on this group of tight ends and receivers. We're going to watch some of those guys you talked about, and you can watch them with pride, knowing you had a hand in prepping them for this season. That's pretty cool stuff. We appreciate you giving back like you do.
Yeah, thank you guys. Well, I'm excited to watch them too. It's always fun when you get to know the guys on a personal level. I mean, it makes you want to root for them that much harder, and so. Hopefully they go out there and have a great season and stay healthy and have a lot of success on the field. So I'm their number one fan, and I'll be cheering them on the whole way.
All right, go get some dinner. The great Dennis Pitta on the Wise
Thanks,
Guys
Dennis.
tonight.
Thank you guys. Have a good one.
Thanks, Dennis.